Bases dropped on a busy wall past Wednesday here on Soccer's Morning Show. Soccer down here. John here, you there. And if everything works out, and we mean like travel and airports and a bunch of things, this could be in addition to what we're going to be normally doing, could be a really cool show. Bottom of the hour, Jenn Hildreth is going to join us, one of the busiest people in show business, and she's going to come by and let everybody know about the group stage and Women's World Cup and all that kind of stuff. Dylan Butler traditionally joining us at 10 o'clock. We'll get Dylan's thoughts on Leagues Cup and all of the chaos that's happened there. 10:30, unless he has to join us sooner, Lloyd Hours, the man who is the new technical director for the Marshall Islands project, he should be dropping by. We think planes will behave. We think. Got a message from Lloyd before the show started this morning. He says he's got flight changes, so he's not quite sure on timing. So we'll keep an eye on all of that. But looking forward to get Coach's update. If he joins us here in the first half hour, that's cool. And then, we can sit there. It's either like the first half hour or the last half hour. That's what we're hunting for Lloyd, if he can figure out things with airports and things like that. So hopefully looking forward to catching up with Coach for like 15 minutes or so before he hops a plane and is heading back to England for his work. And so he spent 9 days in the Marshall Islands to help continue to grow the sport there. They are right now the last country on the planet that does not have a national football team. And so he is a part of the process to bring the sport of soccer to the Marshall Islands. Spent 9 days there. We'll get all of his feedback. I would suggest following Soccer Fed MI and Lloyd Hours on the 280-character app to get your updates there. They've got some GoFundMes going on to help continue to try to spread the sport there on the islands. And it's a project that we've been keeping an eye on a great deal, and we're going to continue to keep an eye on it. But if planes and airports and time changes, they can all behave, we can sit there and, possibly, hopefully, probably, I'm going to put it that way, possibly, hopefully, probably catch up with Coach Hours here in the show at some point. How's that for a tease? Okay. I know that we're going to talk Leagues Cup. We're definitely going to talk Leagues Cup because, as Tom has said, this tournament is officially no longer drunk. It's on LSD, mescaline, peyote, PCP. We all know with the autocorrect, Tom. It might be masculine and on mescaline. Peyote, PCP, ecstasy, and any other psychedelics imaginable. That is true. Bam. Good evening, everybody. The Nashville game was insane, and LAFC have a plus 10 goal difference in two matches. That you do. Don't forget ketamine. Let's see. So, we got to talk just about everything that is going on there, and we will definitely do that. And so we got to talk about all of this, and we will talk about it when it comes to. So Coach is currently on a plane. Okay. So all right. So that's the update with Coach. So if he talked to us on a plane, that'd be kind of rough. So I'm going to say, let me know when you land, and we'll go from there. Might end up being a 1v1, so we might have 10:30 to talk about stuff, and so we're going to float Coach Hours and see if he lands and gets there. We'll go from there. Let's see. So, and I'm also trying to discuss things with other folks too simultaneously. So, all right. So, all right. There we go. All right. So, this is great live radio. I know this is. All right, so Coach Hours, we might have to float him, so we'll see. He is currently on a plane. Hopefully he lands, and we'll go from there. Will says he's just hoping the boys' visas are getting done in the nice long break. Yes, hopefully we can get that done. But kind of want to start opening kickoff with a piece of cool news, and we'll go from there. All right, so this is the kind of show that we're doing this morning. It's like flying around, trying to figure out what's going on. All right, so let's go here. For those of you that may or may not follow on social media, big night for SDH last night. We were a finalist in one of the categories for the Atlanta Press Club Awards in podcasting. And so as I reach over to my left, right here, Award of Excellence from the Atlanta Press Club for SDH for podcasting. Can't quite see all the wording because my hand is hiding it, but here it is. I have the proof. We've made it. 2023 Award of Excellence in Podcasting, Atlanta Press Club Incorporated for SDH. So we couldn't have done it without you guys. And we officially have our first piece of hardware. So there you go. The seventh season here, this is from our sixth season. What we get to do is, we get to talk about sport every day. And sometimes it's a little more than sport, but thanks to all of you guys for putting up with us for as long as you have. So, SDH won in podcasting last night from the Atlanta Press Club. So very, very cool stuff there. But yeah, thanks to all of you guys. Thank you, Bam. And so, yeah, we're going to talk Leagues Cup, and we'll kind of get into it. Bam says Ordaz 2 goals, 2 games, good for the youth system. That is true. Now, if you can only get LAFC 2 to score those goals in MLS Next Pro, you have them in the last month. You've done that in the last month. So you need to kind of translate that to get out of the cellar in the Western Conference and MLS Next Pro. Coco, SDH. Yeah, Ricky, we won the Atlanta Press Club last night. Award of Excellence for SDH right here. Right there it is. It's here, and it's going to – there you go. So, yeah, Coco says SDH is now on more meaningful hardware than most of the Eastern Conference. Next Pro is just extra training for when they come up to MLS. So, yeah, it's true, Bam. But, you kind of want to be in the playoffs when you're playing there at Cal State Fullerton. You want to work your way into the Western Conference. But you have shown your offense as of late. Last night in Leagues Cup, by the way. Yeah, and to Tom's point about it being no longer drunk, LSD, mescaline, peyote, PCP, and ecstasy, you had 3 matches. Oh, by the way, that was opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And there's your QR code for those of you watching on Twitch. Then, once again, use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchases. And thanks to everyone who has done so far. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into the youth initiatives that they have targeted. And the youth gain very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So, last night in Leagues Cup, you had 3 matches going on simultaneously. That were in PKs. And for those of us who were watching, and that's the thing, Bam, this is what I was kind of going to get into. MLS Season Pass doesn't have multi-screen to watch all the penalties at once. 3 matches simultaneously going to penalties. Yep, no multi-screen experience. 3 matches simultaneously, and it was a challenge. It was a challenge for the streams because sometimes, when you're watching Apple, it'll take a little while to load, and you'll get the spinning wheel of doom, and it'll take a little bit, and then you've got to sit there, and you hit watch. Then it asks you if you want to watch it from the beginning, and then you want to hit yes, and then you get the spinning wheel of doom and hopefully that it triggers it. But you got all 3 matches in the early window that went to penalties. 3 matches early on went to penalties. And it was simultaneous. It was absolutely blanking insane, to borrow a phrase from Tom Russo. In the knockouts last night, in the early window, you had, and we'll get into this as well, you had Nashville, who didn't win it, and then they did against Club America. Then you had Philly and New York. And then you had Toluca and Minnesota, and then you had the Loons. All 3 of them, and you went from 1 to 1 to 1. And then you had to go back because you thought that America and Nashville was done when it wasn't, before you could go and see Monterrey and Tigres and LAFC take care of RSL. 3 matches simultaneously in penalties. So my question for all of you is, if you don't like Leagues Cup, have you been converted, or are you sitting there just still shaking your head going, I can't believe that this is a tournament and we're getting this kind of stuff? Do you still not watch? If you watch, you get the Tom Russo reaction. If you're not watching after last night, are you kind of peeking in? Is your interest peaked? P-I-Q-U-E-D, question mark. You peek in, P-E-E-K-E-D. Is your interest peaked? P-I-Q-U-E-D. Or are you just still like, nope, not watching? But Philadelphia, New York goes to PKs, and we'll talk about what Jim Curtin said after the match too. And Toluca and Minnesota. Dane St. Clair can say whatever he wants. I don't care. Dane St. Clair can run his mouth as much as Dane St. Clair wants to run his mouth. Bottom line. And that's what you're staring at. But then the situation in Nashville, and I'm going to effort friend of the network, Lucas Panzica, and see if he can come in tomorrow and discuss off the top the craziness that happened in Nashville. And it goes to a larger issue. So we think that when Jack Mayer has his penalty saved, that it's over. But it wasn't. It goes to the keeper off his line. And then, all of a sudden, after 5 minutes, five minutes, people. 5. They review it, and then they do it all over again. And it had gotten to the point to where MLSsoccer.com had actually had Nashville as the loser. And we'll get into that other stuff too. They had Nashville posted as the loser, Club America advancing for the longest time. Then they pulled the result, and then they had to change everything. Then you continue, and then Nashville wins it after they didn't. And then in the 10 o'clock hour after Jenn Hildreth, we'll get into the other discussion. And this is where I'm legitimately still having conversations with folks as we're trying to do all of our stuff. And so you had pitch invaders as a part of this also. And that was, I mean, and then you had 20 arrests, and I'm a bit apoplectic in trying to figure out what to discuss. because you had 20 pitch invaders get arrested. You had 20 people get arrested. I mean, it was just absolutely crazy. And the Tigers keeper, Nahuel, he's in a world all of his own when it comes to his ishhousery. And you do that kind of a thing. But you had pitch invaders. You had VAR take entirely too long. The AR was there, but didn't make a response. But, maybe, and like I said, we don't know this for sure, that what happened was you're focused on safety, and they should have been. Focused on safety in the match in Nashville. And that might have been a part of the delay in saying that, the keeper was off his line, we've got to do it all over again, all that kind of stuff. And it's something that we've got to keep an eye on. And also after that match, and like I said, we'll talk about this more in the 10 o'clock hour. Jenn Hildreth set to join us in about 10 minutes. You had the fans once again lobbing stuff from the top deck at Geodis. Nashville took a while to celebrate, rightfully so, because apparently their exit is the gateway that is underneath. Morning, Abby. Their gateway for the Nashville team is the one that's right underneath where the visiting fans were in that upper corner. Maybe just this time, to avoid all of that, they could have gone out a different exit, been escorted out that way, but they waited a while. Then they go into that gateway, and the video is out there. So you end up seeing folks just lobbing everything from the upper deck. And I'm going to venture to say that it was Club America fans lobbing stuff at the Nashville SC team as they were trying to exit the field. Those in the upper deck that did not make their way down onto the field. I mean, you even had a stretcher situation and a non-contact injury with a security guard. Like I said, we'll effort Lucas Panzica tomorrow morning off the top, and we'll get more into this. But just the chaos that was there in the Nashville game with the three matches that were going on simultaneously with Pens. And like I said, Dane St. Clair, he can say whatever he wants. As much as he has been saving things recently. And then you had a great duel with Andre Blake and Carlos Cornell in PKs. Philadelphia wins that one 4-3 in PKs. Loons win theirs 4-2 in PKs. But the serious situation in Nashville is what we've got to look at here. Abby says, Club America fans, well known for throwing things. I remember we went years ago to the Dome to watch him play, and my son got hit with a beer. He was 8 years old and smelled like a drunk. But we've seen, sadly, a lot of the Liga MX fans taking advantage of their locale and doing things they shouldn't. They're not representing their team well, or if this is sadly what they think that they should do to represent their team, they need to do other things. But Club America fans, and I mean, the video's out there, and it literally, you are seeing from that corner, and the press box, for those of you that don't know, in Geodis, the press box proper is slid down into the corner into that area where you can see the fans in the upper deck, and you've got that gateway for Nashville SC to head to their locker room. I would have suggested in this situation that they go down a different gateway. But my larger point is that they've got a matchup coming with Messi. That they got something happening with Lionel Messi. And you look at the Inter Miami schedule, and it is, I mean, it's, yep. You know, you could have something You've got Messi and them at DRVP and K, but these away games, the away games with Inter Miami, TQL, Red Bull Arena, BMO, and BMO doesn't have a whole lot of room, and I mean BMO Stadium, where LAFC is. The Benz, Exploria, Soldier Field, Bank of America. Those stadia should look at what happened last night and learn a lot of lessons. Learn a lot about what you should and what you shouldn't do. Make sure that you have everything stacked. I don't know, Emilio. I don't know. Emilio's Campeones Cup of 19 was well behaved. What's happened? Don't know. Legitimately, don't know. Unless we are in something where fans feel more empowered to do things than they have before, and they feel like their support can be shown in a bunch of different ways. Quarterfinal schedule's out. The round of 8. LAFC is not going to be playing at BMO. They're going to be playing Monterrey in the Rose Bowl. That's going to be cool. So, we'll keep an eye on that. But last night, Leagues Cup, you had 3 matches going on simultaneously that went to PKs. Still no multi-view option for Apple, but the fan response in Nashville is something that you hope that you can gauge from folks going forward. So Philadelphia Querétaro's at Subaru Park, and this is all on Friday. Miami's hosting Charlotte at DRVP and K. Nashville gets Minnesota at Geodis, LAFC, and Monterrey at the Rose Bowl. Getting the Rose Bowl ready on a couple days' notice. That's going to be a fun one. Now, time to bring in one of the busiest people in show business. And I mean that in the most complimentary sense of the word. I'd love to know what her itinerary has been over the last, say, 6 months. I know a lot of it has been studying. And it's fantastic that we could actually pin this person down for 15, 20 minutes or so just to kind of get what's going on, because she's back on this side of the planet. If I had a drum roll, I would bring it out. Jenn Hildreth, how are you?
I am great. I appreciate the idea of a drum roll. It still means a lot. Great intro, John. Happy to be here. Join the show. Talk some soccer.
Yep. By the way, welcome to the office. Let me take down the
it looks nice.
The advertising banner. Welcome to Office HD with all the stuff and the hats and everything. I wanted to kind of go through a couple of different things with you, discussing Women's World Cup and where we are. And, obviously I can't let the United States situation go without discussing that with you. Debutantes, the big names that got bumped out early. But what I also wanted to do was discuss with you broadcasting in this current day and age, because you had a lot of early wake-up calls because you were on the West Coast calling matches with Warren Barton, and you were there for the entire group stage. I want to go back to the beginning of all of this. When it came to your preparation for getting ready for this, I saw all the boards with all the different colors. So trust me, I know, and I know what you're going through. But for someone who hasn't had the chance to talk about preparation and see preparation and all these kinds of things, how much prep are we talking about just so you could be on the same page with what's going on in front of you from Los Angeles?
Yeah, it was a lot. It always is. A World Cup always is. It's a big event, any big event, Olympics, things like that. When you've got all these teams and they're not teams that you regularly see. So it was intense. And as we were into it and all of it, I mean, you brought up the schedule. I've never had a sustained period of time where I've gone that long without getting more than 4 hours consecutively of sleep for 2 weeks, which is essentially what happened because we just had to nap whenever we could and get up in the middle of the night and go to a game and then go back to bed. But so you're doing this all in the middle of the night. And then literally it was like, you are literally, when people say eating, breathing, living soccer, that's what it was. Because I would literally call a game, I would sleep for a little bit, I would get up and it'd be more work. Because so we did 11 games over the span of 15 days. We prepared for 23 teams because we had very few repeats. We had a game in every group of this World Cup, the biggest World Cup ever. And we had 2 games that wound up getting switched. So they were on our schedule. They switched. I'd already done prep for them. You have to kind of switch gears and prep for more teams. So that's really difficult to do during a tournament, but it happens. And so, I mean, it's just, luckily we have an amazing research team. The research team that Fox provides for World Cups is amongst the best they are the best that I've ever worked with. So on the one hand, they're helping you with a lot of the information, all that biographical information that I like to have as at least the bare bones stuff, their club team and how many World Cups they've played in and how old they are and where they're from. And if there's any other interesting nuggets, they put that all in these giant documents for you. So we've got all these files about the players and the teams and the coaches and the backgrounds, but I still have to create that into my own boards and my own files so that I can access it during a game and know it and have it in my brain a little bit. So yeah, I mean, it's as hard as I have ever worked for anything in my life.
It has to be in Jenn language so you can understand.
Yeah.
Because we can have all of the best research in the world, and it can be on these fantastic pieces of card stock and whatever. But if you can't compartmentalize it and translate it into a language that you understand, it's like, okay, I'm reading this and it is a language that I don't get. You got to be able to convert that info so it can be flawless on the air, and that's something that's a difficult balance to achieve.
Yeah, because and also for me, it's like, this goes back to taking notes in school. Like I retain stuff better by writing it. So yeah, I'm a dinosaur. I handwrite everything. You too? Yeah.
Mhm.
You still doing your handwriting? Oh, there it is.
See, this is all right. So just to let you know, 4 calendars, by the way. I have 4 separate calendars. This is one of them where literally it's old school scripting, line down the middle, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it says Wednesday, Jenn Hildreth, 9:30. This starts out as a clean piece of paper that's written. By the time I get to Friday, it is all just completely and totally crossed out. I've got that one. I've got the Gmail calendar that I access last because it's computer and I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Calendar that is on the fridge for if you have got an idea at 2:30 in the morning and you're getting the glass of water and it's like, oh crap, I forgot X, and you write that on the calendar. And then calendar number 4.
Oh wow. Oh yeah, I got one of those too. The big one on the desk.
Yeah. So, but the thing is it can't be on the desk because if it's on the desk, it's underneath all the computer stuff.
Yeah, mine is buried.
It's got to be off to the side so it's not buried. So I know exactly what. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, look. So this little lovely document here. I had to write out a calendar for when our games were because they first sent our schedule and I was like, this means nothing to me. I can't comprehend what time it is in Australia, New Zealand /LA /Atlanta, where I'm preparing for all this stuff, right? So I said, please, can somebody just put this in a document for me so that I can see exactly when the game is going to be in the time zone that I'm going to be in. So, just to give you an idea, we finished off we had a few 10 p.m.s. Those are the nice ones.
Yes.
Then we finished off with 2:30 a.m., 3 a.m., 3 a.m., 3 a.m. It's nuts. Like, it's just completely insane, but it's a World Cup. And it has been, you alluded to it at the beginning. It has been, I think, the most entertaining, the most shocking, surprising, delightful World Cup. And that's even with, I'm still repping my U.S. stuff.
I was going to say, that's the one that's got the 2-3 on the back, right?
Yeah. It's got my name on there.
But doesn't that go in a frame though?
Well, I mean, eventually, but I'm wearing it now. So
okay.
Yeah.
Just checking.
So, but anyway, even with the disappointment of the U.S. going out, and obviously there's massive disappointment with that. This World Cup, I certainly had some concerns. I thought, oh man, we're going to see some really lopsided scores. You got 8 debutantes and teams that have never been on this stage before. And we had a few lopsided score lines, but for the most part, I think all of the teams represented themselves so well. They proved that investment pays off. And some of these programs you've heard about. Nigeria's struggles, Jamaica's struggles, Haiti, my goodness, what that country has gone through. And yet they still find a way to come on this world stage and compete and knock off some of these superpowers. It's been incredible to watch.
All right, since you're wearing the jersey and you're wearing the splash lid, we're going to have to go here. But I think the larger point is that in the past, in all the tournaments that we can go back, the United States was able to out-athlete, and I just probably created a word. They could figure out a way, because of their athleticism. If the game planning wasn't there for whatever reason, they could out-athlete the opposition, get the win, get it done, and by the end of the time, you end up with a title. The margins in the world have now closed to where they can't rely on that each and every time. And we saw that in this tournament, where the margins, if they're closing or they're closed, the world has caught up.
Yeah, and I would counter your term to say outcompete, because it's always been that mentality, right? That winning mentality, that refuse to lose, that I think has helped the U.S. stand out. And yeah, there is some of that, just kind of like, you think back to Anson Dorrance, who was really at the beginning of all of this for the U.S., when they first went on a World Cup stage and won, and he took them in there and he put the ball down their throat and he pressured them, and teams didn't know how to handle that. And so as the game has evolved, we have to continue to evolve as well. And I think what this World Cup showed us is there's still some evolution that needs to be done. And it is not just with our upper level players and senior players. It's taking a really strong look at the development of our players. And is this properly really preparing them? Because I look at this team and, I watch all these players and call them in the NWSL all the time. I've seen a lot of them come through college, and I said, this is a massively talented team. That's where the disappointment really hits you. You look at the talent on this team and I say, how did we lose? How did we not perform better than we did in this World Cup? And that comes down to a number of different things. I mean, this stretches way back. It's not that much of a shock and a surprise, in the sense that the lead up games to this World Cup didn't exactly inspire a ton of confidence in me. I wanted to believe, and I love this team, and I support this U.S. team. But look, they struggled to create and finish quality chances consistently in their buildup, and that continued in the World Cup. So that's something I think that as a federation, as a country, we need to look at in the way that we are developing players.
And at the same time, you saw a lot of big guns not even make it to the knockouts, where Canada, who was having problems offensively, they didn't make it in. Brazil, I know we obviously, you root for players like Marta, and you want to see big names and things like that. And then Germany doesn't even make it in, on one of the more shocking results in a group stage I think we've seen in quite some time, just because math was involved at the beginning and then things fall together. What was it like not to see those big guns even get to the group stage, to the knockouts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly what we're speaking about, is like watching. And I did several of those Group H games. I did the Colombia win over Germany, which was, I think, one of the highlights of the tournament so far, one of the best games I've ever called, most exciting games. And this is coming from somebody who has German heritage in her family, okay? Like, there were a lot of family members on my side who weren't quite so happy when they woke up and saw that result. But I mean, I just think, like, you can't help but root for the underdog, right? And then it's not only that these underdog teams, shall we say, are coming in and somehow scraping out a result. I mean, I've been really impressed. I was watching, which one was it? Colombia and Jamaica, their last match in the round of 16. And I watched Jamaica, and first, this team that hadn't conceded a goal, right? Incredibly. The problem was they weren't scoring goals either. And that eventually came back to bite them. But I watched how organized they were defensively. What a wonderful plan they had to try to defend this 18-year-old superstar for Colombia, Linda Caicedo. And every time she got the ball, I was so impressed with their defensive organization. So it's not like teams are just coming, and it's not that they were sitting in a low block and just saying, all right, break us down. They were very smart with their pressure. They were smart with where they were putting physical presence on the ball and numbers around the ball and what passing lanes they were closing off. This is the evolution that you see amongst some of these other teams. And then you realize they don't even have half the support and resources that a lot of other nations, like the Germanys and the Canadas, Canada's fighting their battle right now, but they're doing it. So that, I think you have to love to see that.
Oh, I mean, it's something that we've been discussing here. We've talked about Canada's soccer business till we're blue in the face, and what's been going on there. We've discussed yesterday what's been going on in Nigeria, where now FIFPro is now officially involved. And look, all I'm going to say is you don't mess with Texas. And when you got a Texan as a head coach for Nigeria and Randy Waldrum, I love to see those kinds of things. I will admit it. I'm the St. Jude for the underdog. I'm the patron saint of lost causes. So give me your Morocco, give me your Nigeria, give me Jamaica, Soleil Washington, Chamblee High School, rising senior. Part of all of this. I like to see these new storylines because being a journalist, you like to tell these new stories. But I like to see these new storylines develop, to your point, where it's not just because it was a fluke that a Jamaican made it through. It's the organization and everything. Despite all of the noise that we're partly responsible for, they've been pushing and persevering through all this stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's more than just an underdog getting a lucky result. These are well earned. These are teams that are well coached, and as you said, the gap is clearly closing around the world, and that is a wonderful thing to see.
Racing Louisville is going to be a problem, aren't they?
You like watching Tembi Catlana? But look at all their goal scorers, not just her. Ari Borges.
I mean, it's going to be fun watching the NWSL after this tournament is over. But now that we are where we are, put your handicapping hat on. You might have to take the splash hat off and sub out another one. But look at the teams. Look at the teams that are left. What do you see in the teams that are left as we get sprinting into the remainder of this tournament?
I was just looking at all those quarterfinal matchups and deciding which ones of these am I going to make sure I get up and actually watch on time, or which will I record? Probably most are going to be recorded. I'm not going to lie. And then I just don't look at my phone. But I think, look, Australia is a great story, because I think one of the other storylines of this tournament is you see teams winning without their big stars. I think Australia had to prove in this tournament that they could win without Sam Kerr. I mean, literally they had to do it if she was physically not ready to go. But I think the group itself also needed to know that they could get results without her. They've done that. She makes her debut. It's incredible. The crowd goes nuts. Can't wait to see what she continues to do, because she is my favorite player to watch, and watching her on her home stage, I think, makes Australia very, very dangerous. I think that Australia-France matchup is going to be phenomenal, because France has been playing really well. Spain has been so up and down for me. Netherlands have been much more consistently solid and good in this tournament, but Spain can explode, and they've been doing it largely without Alexis Putellas. So, I mean, she's played some, but she has not been the factor that I think you think she would be as a Ballon d'Or winner. So those are some of the things that I think are interesting. But I think those are two. I think Japan has been incredibly impressive. Like, they're all good, right? England, Colombia. Can Colombia continue to be the Cinderella? England's going to continue to be more depleted now without having Lauren James after she had the red card suspension. So she's going to be out. They've had all these injuries. Can they continue to limp forward and get past this determined Colombia team? I'm not so sure. I think that Cinderella slipper might continue to fit on Colombia.
Okay, so when it comes to the athletes that you got to see and call with Warren Barton in this tournament, who would be like the top five? This is the Rushmore question of the matches you called, and it doesn't even have to be somebody that has survived to this point. Who are some of the really cool storyline stars that we got to see on this world stage? You're sitting there going, man, that was really cool. It was cool to see her perform on this world stage. Who are some of the cool storylines for Jenn Hildreth in this tournament?
I'm busting out my giant folder of boards right now, so I can try to forget anybody. But I would put Linda Caicedo truly at the top of that list for Colombia. What a just bright young star. I'm 18 years old. She's been phenomenal for Colombia to watch, but she's not been their only player. But Warren loved Ramirez for Colombia. Every time we watch them, he said, I just love the way she plays. So
I just love the way she plays, Jen.
Yeah, he loves it. Oh, that's a very nice accent. Good Warren Barton accent.
Love the way she plays, Jen.
So I'm trying to, I think Alex Pop is for Germany, even though obviously disappointing. She didn't finish off as many as she wanted to, but she's just such a force. She reminds me of Abby Wambach. There's a way she dominates the air. I'm looking down through my list here. I told you I had 23 teams I prepped for, so I'm trying to pick out a few. Pernilla Harder for Denmark just needs more around her. South Africa, I loved watching Tembi Katlana. I had gotten to call a Racing Louisville match not long before she left for the World Cup, and got to see her there, just starting to get back healthy again, missing qualification. I think Shayna Matthews, I'm going to go more stories, not just even performances,
Absolutely.
but I didn't actually even wind up calling any of Shayna's matches. I was supposed to call Jamaica, Brazil, and that wound up getting flipped. But I thought, just her story as a mom and all the mom stories, I love those. But she's a mom of 3 little boys, and that's all like since 2019. She had her first, I think, 2018, just leading into the 2019 World Cup. So incredible. I'll probably keep thinking of more. I could go down through my whole list, but I don't think you have all day with me. So I'll leave it there for now.
I've got you until 10:30. I'm not going to keep you that long. But that's the runway that we got, because we got to talk about Leagues Cup and all the other things here in the show. We have one of our viewers / listeners is actually in Melbourne, and he stays up late at night to watch the show here and listen to us. His question for you, and he's also in charge of the LAFC podcast in Australia. Question for Jenn: best looking kit in the Women's World Cup?
Easy. And I'm so mad that I didn't buy it. I almost bought it. It's Columbia. I love that purple and yellow of Columbia. I just love it. And like they literally had it in the Adidas store. I was in, walking around LA before I ever called that Germany match. And I'm like, oh, look at this Columbia. This is a really cool one. Maybe I should get this. And I didn't. And then that happened. And now I have regret. There you go.
But
what do you think?
Can you go and buy can you go through Adidas and still get the kit and have to get it shipped there to the casa?
Probably. I probably could. But then I also, there's like a part of me also that feels like a little bit, I don't know, if I'm sort of like cheating on the US if I do that. And by the way, I never put on, I did wear my hat. I didn't get my jersey till after, but I obviously am very impartial, and I didn't call any of the US matches, but I would have felt weird putting a jersey on of any team that I was covering. Let me put it that way. At any point, I just wouldn't do that. That would feel wrong to me, because truly I root for a wonderful game. I root for a great performance, and that's it.
And I mean, for me, I'm a storyteller, so that I kind of naturally gravitate toward good stories. So for me, I would want the Jamaica jersey. I would want the Jamaica kit. I would want the Morocco kit for what they've been able to accomplish, those kinds of things. That's where I gravitate. I mean, I could show you my jersey collection and it would be a mess, but yeah, I mean, you see the scarf collection all over the place. So that's kind of where I am. It's like, give me a good story, because that's what all this is about. It's about all the stories that we've all covered over the time. And it's like, it gives me something that I can pull back in and remember. Yeah, it was a great story to cover this. So look, as I said, I'm St. Jude. I'm the patron saint of all the underdogs, and just give me the underdog stuff. And I'm happy, because I can sit there and go, yeah, see what Morocco did in the World Cup. That's why I would end up with a Morocco kit, something like that.
That's fair. I do like that. And by the way, I love Morocco's story as well. I love getting to know their story and to realize, of all that we hear about women fighting for support from the federation and money and resources, then you go into a nation where, the culture in a lot of ways doesn't even want a lot of women to play. Now, that's not everybody, but there is still a good chunk of that culture that is not warmed to seeing women wearing shorts and playing sports. They just don't, that's not what they would consider to be right. And so to add that to the mix of everything that they have overcome to succeed and get to where they were and make a knockout round, I mean, incredible. That's just incredible. I would say the Philippines too, by the way. That's a team we haven't talked about much. I know they didn't make it out of the group stage, but I really appreciated understanding a little more about, I think from the outset, I looked at this team and you go, oh my gosh, they're all these American-born players. And you could snidely say, oh, we're like, America 2 or junior or whatever. They're just kind of gathering all these players. But then what you start to understand is heritage players, as they call them. These are players who, maybe they didn't get a shot with the US, but they're getting a chance to represent the country of their heritage, of their parents, of their grandparents. And that means so much to them. by choosing that country, it almost means more in some ways than the country that you're living in, that you've grown up in. I love getting a better understanding of that. And I listened to a podcast that was done about exactly that, an American living or who had Philippine roots, and she was living in America, and just all of it. I just found that to be really fascinating, and I loved their story, and I was glad that they had some success and got a win.
No doubt about it. Casey fared the same way with South Korea and
Yeah.
with her story as well. Wrapping up with Jenn Hildreth because she has a life, and we do not here.
Not much.
Uh, what is recovery now for you, and when does the busiest schedule for the busiest person in show business pick back up?
Yeah, recovery was well, a lot of sleep, and then I managed to like tear my hamstring. I don't know.
Oh,
Let's just hope it's just a little bit of like a tweak. I think it's maybe just a tweak. I don't know. Warren got me sprinting too much. We were doing our Orange Theory workouts. I don't know what happened. I get competitive. Anyway, it's okay. But so getting back to somewhat of normal. Kids are back in school doing all that. But then next week, diving right into it, back-to-back NWSL and MLS, and then college soccer starts end of the month. So
no doubt about it. At Jenn Hildreth on the 280 character app. I don't know what to call it these days, so I just 280 characters. Jenn, fantastic to catch up with you, because sometimes it's like trying to catch rain through your fingers or grab a comet by the tail. And we were glad that we were able to do that before business picked back up. As always, since it's been a while, I'm going to go ahead. We got one question before you go. You do have golden ticket status, so that means that you can crash the show anytime you want to discuss anything. So literally, it's like, oh, I want in on that conversation. You can take your golden ticket and sit there and go, all right, so shoot me the link. You could text me and go, Nelson, shoot me the link. I want to talk.
Okay.
Abby, who do you see as the top women's college teams this year?
Ooh, Abby, I appreciate that you think that I am ready to turn that around. I'm sorry to let you down. I could throw out some names, but I'm not going to do that to you, because truth be told, sister, I'm not there yet. I'm working on it.
Yeah, trust, I'm right there with you, because it's like, give me an assignment, get me through the assignment, on to the next. So my brain doesn't sit there and have like 90,000 pieces of information in it. Get me through this so I can get to this, get me through this and get to that. So that's
I mean juggling, but look, I would say, now that I took 2 seconds to actually think about it, our defending champs, UCLA, I think is going to be really good again. Young team, young coach. I think they're going to be really good. I think you can't count out the North Carolinas and the Florida States, no matter of the turnover. Virginia's like, the ACC is going to be strong again. So there you go. There's a few teams to look out for.
And anytime that Jenn references the folks in Tallahassee, I'm a happy man. So at Jenn Hildreth on the 280 character app, she is out the door. She's going to go be a mom and try to catch her breath and figure out what Warren Barton did to her hamstring. Be good, my friend. We'll catch up soon.
Yeah, see you later. Thanks.
All right, there's Jenn Hildreth. She survived the morning show, people. Great to catch up with Jenn. Great to see Jenn. Jenn and I go back to the days of when we both covered high school athletics here in the state of Georgia. Do you remember, dear viewer listener, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution High School Sports Show? And Jen's cheering in the green room, so I can see that. That's how far back Jenn and I go. We go back to covering high school athletics together. Jenn started in the business when she was 12. So, I mean, that's literally, that's how long that we've known each other. But yeah, Jenn has golden ticket status. She can crash anytime she wants. That reminds me, I need to get her an SDH scarf to put into her office. Needs a scarf. So we'll get Jenn a scarf so she can hang it from the office, and everybody in the Hildreth household will sit there and go, what is that? And she can explain what's going on. So great to see Jenn Hildreth as she catches her breath and blames Warren Barton for a torn hamstring. And we'll catch up with Jenn and catch up with her about all this kind of stuff. So Dylan Butler has real world things that he's got to hang out with this morning, because, kids in school, kids in camp, those kinds of things. So he is, we were going to have Dylan on next week. We try to have Dylan on as many Wednesdays as humanly possible. And so we're going to talk about what else is going on around the world and what you guys thought about the Jenn Hildreth conversation and all of that other stuff. So we've got All the news of the day that we haven't gotten into yet. Leagues Cup, the biggest concern on the board. And since we now know where folks are, it's great to catch up with everybody and discuss those kinds of things. And since I put the billboard back up, I'm just going to go ahead and put the billboard back up and read a promo. It seems like a time to do it. So we're going to boost the music to, was it 15? Oh, yeah, that's what happens when you don't turn the actual thing off. All right, so it's like you start doing something with breaking news, and then you just kind of go on to other things. So it's time to read a promo about our friends at Eliminized Service for odor-free clean fresh air. Odor-free clean fresh air. One place you need to go. It's Eliminized Service. Deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. We created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pets, cigarettes, and food. Realtors and property managers use the Eliminized Service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. Turnkey process makes it easy to work with said realtors and property managers. Kind of the environment, offering a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever, different than Febreze or other masking agents that we have either underneath the sink or above us in the cupboard, because when we reach under the sink or above us in the cupboard, when you pull out that masking agent, there's a reason they call it a masking agent. You spray it in the air. All you're doing is masking the odor. You're not attacking the problem like our friends at Eliminized Service do with their proven scientific formula. Destroying odors down to the molecule. Pricing very, very easy, one of two ways. Either by the cubic foot or parts per million to come up with a price that's affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. You have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, one place to go, one thing to do. Let's go to the website, eliminized.com, and this is where I grab my pen. Right there, QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on our social media channels. Eliminized.com, but after the .com, go /Atlanta so you know what part of the world, they know what part of the world that you are reaching out to them from so they can help you with your issue. Full homework assignment. ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta. Eliminized.com /Atlanta. Eliminized Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH here on a Wall Pass Wednesday. Now, we are speaking ill of Warren Barton, Alex. Morning, Alex, by the way. He wants to know why we're speaking ill of Newcastle legend Warren Barton. Because, Alex, we had Warren's broadcast play-by-play partner from the FIFA Women's World Cup, Jenn Hildreth, on in the last half hour. And apparently, during their Orange Theory fitness workouts, Warren is a bit competitive to this day. And Jenn, being a soccer player in her own right from her time at Emory, you have soccer players being competitive. I know that shocks you. But at their Orange Theory workouts in Los Angeles, apparently Warren decided to really challenge Jenn, and Jenn thinks she may have torn her hamstring because of said Orange Theory workouts. She thinks it's a tweak. Her gut thinks it's a tear. That is why we are speaking ill of Warren Barton, because she has injured a golden ticket status member on this show. Warren Barton may have injured Jenn Hildreth and had her tear her hamstring because of the competitive nature of soccer players. That is why we are speaking ill of Warren Barton. We have to be protective of our own. If Warren Barton were a golden ticket status person here on the show, then it might be a little more even-handed with our criticisms. But Jenn Hildreth, as of today, is golden ticket status because it's been a while since we've had her on the show. She has not been on the show since we instituted golden ticket status. It is a rare thing indeed. But golden ticket status given to Jenn Hildreth, we have to protect our own. So if Warren Barton was part and parcel to the injuring of Jenn Hildreth, we have to come to Jenn Hildreth's defense. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if Jenn on her social media platforms, either on the 280 character app or on her gram, divulges the injury. And full credit to Jenn, by the way, for wearing her personalized jersey and paint splash lid. But Warren Barton. We may be blaming Warren Barton for a hamstring injury involving Jenn Hildreth. So that's where we are. That's why. And Alex is like, shoulder to shoulder play on. Well, we don't know if there was any contact. We do not know. We do not know the nature of the situation. We do not know the nature of the situation. We really don't. Rich Ransom here in an hour number 2. And yeah, this is since we are now in the Leagues Cup thing, part of the discussion. I know that, and we will discuss this because it was brought up last night. In the post-match where Red Bulls and Philadelphia went to PKs, one of the 3 simultaneous PK matches in the early window last night. So, Rich, yes, as a public service, we will discuss these comments. So the comments post-match by Jim Curtin, and Rich, that after I say these, just be prepared for slings and arrows. Quote, I think Troy's a great young coach. I think he's doing an incredible job with his team. I really do. He deserves to be the head coach of that team. Beat 2, 3, 4, comma. But I will say this has nothing to do with Troy. For a team to be in 21st place, so you knew it was coming and you wanted to get the reaction. Okay, all right, I see. Okay, I see this. But I will say this has nothing to do with Troy. And Rich, if you heard the audio last night, let me know if I'm anywhere close. For a team to be in 21st place and talk and run their mouths as much as they do on the field, to be beat here 11 times in a row by us is something that, I'm giving them bulletin board material, but I've had enough of it. Credit to my guys for sticking together and pushing and winning again. But, for all the stuff they have to deal with on the field, off the ball nonsense, people coming off the bench talking, bench players that come into the game and talk and run their mouths is just strange and something I'm going to address and speak my mind because I'm proud of my group and the way they've done their talking on the field and have now 11 games in a row, almost 5 years against Red Bull. Rich Pot Kettle. I will say this. In that match, in the last 20 minutes of that match was a car crash. It was an absolute car crash. Rich, I don't know if you were there last night. I'm fairly certain that you consumed the match one way or the other. But the last 20 minutes of that match was a car crash. An absolute car crash. Victor Alfonso Caceres Hernandez, your center ref, let so much go. And then he would break out the whistle at an inopportune moment. I mean, literally, you had players from both teams. There's one sequence that sticks into my head. And it started with a challenge. It started, and Abby, that's what happened in that last 20 minutes. It started with a challenge along the end line. This one sequence that I have in my head, and it was about 20 minutes to go. I want to say it was between 15 and 20 to go. Starts with a challenge, one player each team, as the ball is trying to either roll over the end line for goal kick or be recovered so Philly can keep possession. The players for both sides decided that they were going to try to figure out, they were going to try to obstruct each other. One's blocking the other. One goes for a hip toss takedown. Both players go down. The ball somehow still stays in play, and it was picked back up. Cleared by Red Bulls, back toward the center line, and I'm trying to reconstruct this play in my head. Kicked back towards center line, you had another couple of players go down, and then it ended up with, as the sequence ended up closer to the attacking third for Red Bulls in the Philadelphia half, Kai Wagner, at the end of this play, Wagner ends up basically with a leg whip hip toss takedown of a Red Bulls player. That got a whistle and a card. And Kai Wagner, frankly, the way that Victor Alfonso Caceres Hernandez was calling this match, Kai Wagner at the end of that sequence, when he went ballistic and blew his stack and got into Caceres Hernandez's face, he's lucky, frankly, he didn't get another card the way that Caceres Hernandez was calling / not calling that particular sequence late in the match. Very, very lucky that he did not give back-to-back yellows. But that last 20 minutes, and this is, and Rich, to your point, after he gets the whistle and he blows his stack, where's the calls for the things that happened before then? You see him gesticulating wildly, and that's a fancy word for pointing. Points wildly toward the other end where the sequence started with the hip toss and all this kind of stuff, and nothing gets called and all that. Wagner is pointing back to the beginning of the sequence when all of this madness started. But the last 20 minutes of regulation in that match was an absolute car crash. And Caceres Hernandez let it go and then would call a foul that you sit there and go, okay, so that's random. The gauge that he had in when to call a foul and when not to call a foul was completely off the board. And we'll talk about that, obviously, as we go here in Leagues Cup. But once again, you're looking at, oh, goodness gracious, you want consistency. And when Bart joins us tomorrow at a still-to-be-determined time, because Bart has officially landed back in Atlanta. We'll get into reffing down here. Like I said, I don't know how much of Leagues Cup Bart has seen. We may have him do a special request and watch the last 20 to 25 minutes of Philadelphia and Red Bulls, just from a reffing down here perspective. But it was a madhouse leading into PKs. It was an absolute madhouse. And Caceres Hernandez either let it go and just wanted them to sort it out themselves and wasn't going to call anything, then was going to call something random, or lost control, or both. But yeah, the post-match comments from Jim Curtin, pot kettle. That's all. That's the only thing I've got to say about the post-match comments of Jim Curtin, pot kettle. But yeah, the center ref in that match, whew, much like the AR in the Nashville match, I want more context about what happened at 6-5. I want more context. And that, to me, is the larger point here with the ARs. Like I said, we don't have all the information. Caceres Hernandez, to me, I don't think he gets another assignment in this tournament. We only have 7 more matches, but still, I don't think he gets another assignment. The AR in Nashville, I want more information before making that same determination. Because the way that the match ended the first time, Jack Mayer is saved. Keeper's off his line. But we don't get that information for a long time with a VAR review. It's like 5 minutes. Legitimately, after Mayer was saved, I went to the other matches that were still going on in PKs. That's where I was. It's like, okay, this one's over. Bang, going to the next. And then social media is blowing up as I'm watching the Red Bulls in Philly and Toluca and the Loons. After the fact was when I found out about all of the madness and hysteria and everything else, the that was going on with all of that. So, yeah. But like I said, I want more information about the AR. If the AR waited as long as he did, and there were no other extenuating circumstances, then that AR, or both ARs maybe, they don't need to be in the tournament for the rest of the time either. But the larger point is about, reffing down here and making sure that things are in control in these situations. The Nashville situation was so out of control, I'm reserving my judgment with that crew until after the fact. I want more information. Because if the center ref was more focused on safety and making sure that players either were okay to leave in whatever runway they could to get out of that madness, that's fine. Pitch invaders, 20 arrests, stretcher for a security officer and a non-contact injury. You had all of that going on before it was divulged through VAR that the keeper went off his line and we're still going. Like I said, I want more information about that incident in Nashville. I want the incident report. But 20 arrests, and that's what you're staring at after what happened in Nashville last night. There are, if you thought that you were ready, these are things that are going to the league office, and you are finding out that you are not. Rich, as Querétaro comes to town on Friday, I would suggest that security be increased and that you keep an eye on things down pitch level. DRVP and K still, I think, trying to get their sea legs about them when it comes to handling Messi, Busquets, and Jordi Alba. Charlotte coming to town, 8:30 kick Friday night. Hopefully they'll be away from the storms by that point. Nashville and Minnesota, I think they'll probably still be cleaning up after what happened last night with the Club America fans. LAFC and Monterrey at the Rose Bowl. I hope you activate the Rose Bowl security plan at full, because the Monterrey fans will travel. You know that they will be there. And I would venture to say that there'll be more Monterrey fans there than LAFC fans. It'll almost be like a road game at the Rose Bowl. 10:30 kick Friday night. Tickets have not been figured out yet, by the way. But make sure that your security plans are in place. Once again, 7 matches to go in this tournament. And we'll see where we are. But, yeah, last night on a couple of different levels and a couple of different venues was out of control. Rich is looking for video of the Nashville madness. You were watching the Union match, as you should have. Rich, America came to Chester for Champions League, took over 80% of the stadium, and there were pitch invaders. Biggest club in North America with the biggest fan base. David says he's seeing a bunch of season ticket holder complaints about not getting access to Leagues Cup at DRVP and K. My first question, when it comes to those season ticket holders, have they been in it from the beginning? Did they opt in from the beginning of the process? That would be my first question. Did they opt in? David says if it was like Atlanta and offered as a separate, and they said no initially, don't have much sympathy. Yes, it's nice if ownership gives you first right. And that's, like I said, that's my but, yeah, you've got to be in from the beginning. Yeah, you've got to make that jump of faith. Yeah, I'm a full fan of the Herons. I'll be at DRVP and K from the beginning. You'll drop that coin from the beginning. You can't just sit there and say, and like I said, I don't know what the situation is. But if season ticket holders are complaining about not getting access, and you haven't had access by your own choosing from the beginning, that's on you. You can't come back in line and cut after you forgot something at the supermarket. I got to go back to lane 6. Can you hold my place? No, you forgot the pickles. You got to go get the pickles in aisle 6, and you got to get back in line. You can't just hop back into where you were. And Rich, yeah, to your point, Querétaro you don't think they have the same number of supporters as, say, a Club America or Monterrey. That's true. And it will be, I want to see how many Querétaro supporters continue to make these trips. That's the biggest thing. But, and Rich, once again, says, however, this is the atmosphere at Liga MX matches. MLS wanted this, and this is what it is. And I think that this is also a bit of a wake-up call for Major League Soccer, at least in the venues themselves, because of what you're seeing, what you're not seeing, the security, what you need to prepare for. This is what you're looking at. And Emilio, this is why couples should shop together. One can get the forgotten items. Well, that's why you also write them down, Emilio. You got to write the items down. That's why I've got the list. Usually when I go to the store, I have a list. Write it down for me so I don't forget anything. Write it down. So that way I've got everything. And I will go as far as texting the boss when I'm in the store initially. And it's like, have I forgotten anything? Have we forgotten anything? Is there anything else that needs to be on there? Is there an impulse buy that we need to do? Do we need to get ice cream? I go in with a list and text the boss and see if there's something else. Emilio's got a list that starts the following Monday. Right there with you, brother. David, back to the ticket issue. Yes, ownership can offer them to folks who sign up as new Super Premium Plus ticket holders. Then you can get a benefit this year. Yeah, you do get a Benny. You want to drop the $11 gazillion to get season tickets now. And correct, Bam, that is absolutely true. Bam says you leave with nothing on the list. Or that's what you end up with. That's what you end up with down the line. It's like you get the list and then you end up with all these other things and you wonder where your money went. It's like, I only had this list, and all of a sudden I'm going down the aisle and it's like, oh yeah, I've got to get that. Oh no, I've got to get that. I've got to get that. Ooh, I like that. We need chips when you really don't. That's how I am traditionally. Abby finally switched to a Google Doc list for the fam. Some still do not use it. And she says if it's not on the electronic list, it will not be purchased. Man, that's hardcore. Rich, Union offered Leagues Cup as an opt-in option. Initially opted out, but I was able to opt back in. Just when I thought I'd opted out, I opted back in. As well you should. We've got, obviously, news about player movement and things like that. Since, Friday night football is the beginning of the Premier League season. Ross Barkley has signed for Luton Town, by the way, in a shock Premier League return from our friends at Talk Sport. Confirmed the signing of the midfielder after played for Nice last year after being released after 10 months at the club. Less than a year since Barkley left Chelsea by mutual consent. Back in the Premier League with Luton Town. That's big. Obviously, Luton Town does not have everything prepared yet. So they had to push the date back of their home opener in the Premier League because they've still got to get like press box, press facilities, that kind of stuff done. It was a $12 million renovation that they had to get done before they could house Premier League matches. So they've had to push back the date of their Premier League home opener. But there you go. Abby made it easier for myself. Titles of the sections are in order of how the rows are where shopping is a pleasure. Wow. The layout of the store is how it is figured out. Man, that's strong. That's heavy thinking. Reminder tonight, 7:15 pregame. For the twos and for Crown Legacy. Big match in the East. Big match in the Eastern Conference. Atlanta United trying to close the gap towards 7th place. Crown Legacy trying to stay in first in the East, in the Eastern Conference. Now we're talking about things in a conference perspective because the playoff chase is on. We got to keep an eye on all of that stuff. It looks like West Ham has agreed on a deal with Harry Maguire this morning as we roll through the Premier League and let you know what's going on. Laurie Whitwell from The Athletic reached an agreement to sign Harry Maguire, offered $30 million for Maguire. That sum has now been accepted. David Moyes seeking reinforcements after selling Declan Rice to Arsenal in a deal worth $105, while Maguire hopes to revive his career after falling down the pecking order under Eric Ten Hag. Only made 16 appearances last year. Lisandro Martinez, Varane, and Lindelof preferred in central defense. The Athletic has reported Maguire, whose contract runs until 25, hoped to stay and fight for his place at Old Trafford, but England manager Gareth Southgate has indicated a lack of playing time at United could impact his international career. Maguire joined United from Leicester for £80 million in the summer of 2019. Clubs seeking to offload players this summer after signing Onana, Mount, and Højlund. West Ham have seen a £30 million bid for Scott McTominay rejected, but they are set to sign. No, we have not, Abby. We'll get to that next. Set to sign James Ward-Prowse after agreeing to another £30 million deal. Matt Turner completes the £10 million transfer to Nottingham Forest after the deal has been squared away with David Raya and Arsenal. So Raya into Arsenal. Matt Turner, medical and all, finalized contract, £10 million transfer to Nottingham Forest. So Matt Turner, Raya in, Turner out. Turner goes from Arsenal to Nottingham Forest. Good pickup for Steve Cooper and Nottingham Forest as we get ready for the beginning of the season there. So that's the early round of stuff. Everybody trying to figure out which place where it's a pleasure that they go. No, I'm talking about shopping and good stuff. Emilio discussing season ticket Leagues Cup stuff here. Separate purchase. Now for next year it's included, but I think you can opt out. But now people can't figure out that they're getting an extra game and the renewal is perceived as a 15% increase. Subtract the Leagues Cup game and the increase is only about 8%. Emilio is requesting math skills from folks. So with your Leagues Cup opt-in, it's a 15% increase because you're adding a game. 8% if you're opting out. So that's what you're staring at with Leagues Cup around Major League Soccer. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Hopefully Lloyd Hours will be joining us in about 6 minutes. Depends on when he lands. He'll be joining us from the Honolulu airport. I think that'll be the first time that we will have had anybody from the Honolulu airport. Bayern Munich want to submit a new offer of £94.6 million or 110 million euro, including add-ons for Harry Kane. However, as the clock is ticking, 2 days, maybe 3, Kane is now leaning towards staying at Spurs since apparently Bayern and Spurs are still a part of their valuation. If Kane does leave, the club will pursue a move for Ghent's forward Gift Orban, in addition to another center back and a midfielder. Spurs and Arsenal ready to battle it out for Brazilian midfielder Douglas Luiz of Aston Villa. The price tag on David Raya is close to £30 million, according to Fabrizio Romano. Al Hilal want to sign Neymar. Everyone here on this side of the Atlantic is going, whew. Plan to meet with the 31-year-old's father. That's from our friends at Foot Mercato. Foot Mercato in French. So Al Hilal is now chasing after Neymar. Plan to meet with his dad. Good on you. We'll get into Barcelona and the Saudi Pro League coming up in just a little bit. Everton had been considering a move for Harry Maguire. Manchester United interested in Onana in an exchange before the discussion with West Ham this morning. Crystal Palace closing in on Chelsea. Left back Lewis Hall, 18, on a season-long loan. That's the 4-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Manchester United interested in 23-year-old French center back Jean-Claire Todibo from Nice as a replacement for Maguire. Also intend to open formal contract talks with Aaron Wan-Bissaka after the current transfer window closes. Once again, 4-letter paper. Kyle Walker's decided to stay at Manchester City. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. Despite reaching a previous agreement to join Bayern Munich, Real Sociedad want to take Arsenal left back Kieran Tierney on loan. Barca have added a €1 billion release clause to the contract of 16-year-old German midfielder Noah Darvish. A €1 billion release clause for a 16-year-old. Okay. Chelsea's midfielder Cesare Casade is wanted on loan by Leicester and Genoa. Netherlands forward Wout Weghorst will join Wolfsburg on a season-long loan from Burnley. Leeds have agreed to take Joe Rodon on a season loan. That is from our friends at the Telegraph. That's the early round of gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Going into the papers, Bayern and Spurs apparently had overnight talks over Harry Kane. And we talked about it yesterday, and it came to fruition. Julen Lopetegui is out as manager at Wolves 2 days before the season starts. Gary O'Neill takes over for Julen Lopetegui, left the club after 9 months. Bottom of the table at Christmas. He had criticized the club's lack of spending during the summer window, cut a frustrated figure over the last few weeks. O'Neill had been linked to a bunch of jobs after being let go by Bournemouth. Wolves hierarchy believe O'Neill could do a similar job with little funds and be a much-needed morale boost for the club. Remember, Andoni Iraola has come in from Rayo Vallecano to take over at Bournemouth this season. Your departures this summer for Wolves: Diego Costa, João Moutinho, both left on freeze. Ruben Neves left for $47 million. Connor Cody for $8.5 million. Nathan Collins for $23 million. Raul Jimenez for $5.5 million. Ryan Giles was an undisclosed, and these include potential add-ons. So, departures for Wolves. Doing quick math. 78.5, 5.5. 84 million outbound. Inbound, 9.5. Boubacar Traore from Metz. Tom King from Northampton. Matt Doherty from Atletico Madrid, both on freeze. That doesn't sound too optimistic. Wolves sporting director Matt Hobbs, delighted to welcome Gary to the club. Highly motivated young coach, strong principles, very well thought of by everyone he's worked with, and we're excited to see what we can achieve together. Our players have shown their quality during preseason, And I believe Gary and his team will continue to coach and improve them, and will have success working with this group. Everyone at Wolves looking forward to welcoming Gary, offering him their full support, and working collaboratively to help the club to keep pushing things together. Manchester United and Wolves. Monday Night Football at Old Trafford to start things off. Merce is already saying that he doesn't quite see Wolves staying up at this rate. And that will be an interesting thing to see with Wolves. Not investing? What are you doing? Liverpool's latest bid on Lavia has been rejected. PSG willing to listen to offers on Neymar. Lens is going to make an offer on Middlesbrough striker Chuba Akpom. One source claims it's worth $8 million. Middlesbrough value him about twice that. Won't sell until a replacement's lined up. Sheffield United and another European club, unnamed FC, are also interested. He was the Championship's top scorer last year. Chelsea's focusing in on Moises Caicedo and Tyler Adams. Fulham closing in on a deal with Chelsea over the signing of Callum Hudson-Odoi. Optimism that a deal can be struck by the beginning of the regular season. Final year of his contract at Chelsea, not in Pochettino's plans. Personal terms not expected to be an issue. Chidozie Ogbene revealed his surprise when Luton Town expressed their interest in signing him. The Republic of Ireland winger signed on a free from Rotherham. Says it was a decision that he couldn't reject. Lazio interested in Leicester fullback Victor Christensen, according to Sky Italia. We mentioned the Casadei deal. Sources in Germany expecting Manchester United to make a move for Benjamin Pavard now that Harry Maguire has left the club. Expected to cost 30 to 35, linked to City, Liverpool, and Barcelona. West Ham do not want to sell Lucas Paquetá this summer, even if the price is right, in an approach from Manchester City. Paquetá wants the move. And the last thing you want if you're West Ham is an unhappy player. Player's buyout clause next summer is £85 million. Quoting Sky, it's thought that Paquetá would find it very difficult to turn down a move to the treble winners and the opportunity to work with Pep Guardiola. Forest defender Steve Cook heading to QPR for a medical. The Lukaku-Vlahovic swap is at a standstill. Some aspects of the deal are agreed. Remember, Romelu Lukaku from Chelsea and Dusan Vlahovic from Juve. Difficulty remains the amount Juve want in addition to Lukaku for Vlahovic to go to Chelsea. Juve feel Vlahovic is worth more on the market than Lukaku. Chelsea need a striker for a heightened period, for an extended period after the injury to Christopher Nkunku will keep him out for an undisclosed time. Celtic defender Carl Starfelt, we can talk to Jared about this, agreed on terms to a long-term deal at Celta de Vigo. He wanted to be closer to his significant other, and Celtic has obliged. Fulham have held talks with Manchester United over the signing of Fred. Also interest from Saudi Arabia in Fred. Galatasaray tried and failed. So that's not going to be happening. Besiktas unable to agree on a price for Nicola Pepe from Arsenal. Personal terms not expected to be an issue. The fee remains a stumbling block. Resolution to be reached yet. Monaco considering whether to make an improved offer for Arsenal striker Valérien Balogun after their last bid was rejected. Inter Milan also trying to put together a deal for Balogun, but will find it difficult to match Arsenal's £50 million valuation. Spanish side will likely need Arsenal to relax their demands in order to complete a deal ahead of Monaco. So that's what you're staring at from your transfer window and all those kinds of things. We were mentioning the Saudi Pro League and what is going on there. Tariq Panja had some early word on this, and this is quoting Panja this morning. No word on Night Bam. We'll catch up with you tomorrow. Normal time as always. No word on if it's going to be shown here domestically in the States. I'm sure that you could find it on some VPN somewhere if you're that interested. Quoting Panja, the Saudi League starts this weekend, and he understands one of the big spenders still hasn't gotten international clearance to register their players because of repeated breaches of FIFA rules on unpaid salaries to previous players. In case of this particular club, unnamed. It's a little more complicated than just paying the money owed like the others. It's related to breaching previous agreements not to repeat missed payments. They face a 2-window ban that they're appealing. First game this weekend. Panja finishes his thought by saying this. What will be interesting is if Saudi growing influence will be brought to bear. FIFA's rules are clear, but Saudi and FIFA are also extremely close at the highest levels, and the relationship will only strengthen. Pressure on FIFA's multiple roles as governing body and regulator and commercial entity. So, keep an eye on that. Club in trouble? So we'll see. Abby doing an incredible public service is posting our starting lineup for today. A link to the starting lineup and everything that's going on. Remember the twos, once again, 7:15 on the SDH Network. Big matchup against Crown Legacy. If you click on soccerdownhere.net and you look at the starting lineup, here's the skinny. Atlanta 6 points out of a playoff spot in the East. Two of the top teams in the conference back-to-back. Tonight, here, it is Crown Legacy. The weekend in Foxborough, it is the Rebs. Back-to-back big challenges. Jason caught up with Jackson Conway, Sean Lanzan, Aiden Torres, and Steve Cook on his edition of B-Sides over at Off the Woodwork at 92.9 The Game. You can click on that and listen to those interviews. Interesting piece of history. On this day in 1966, announced that professional soccer was coming to Atlanta in 67. The National Professional Soccer League, the original NPSL. Atlanta's the founding members. The Braves were getting into the soccer business. Two leagues ended up launching in 67, merging in 68 to form the NASL. Leagues Cup last night, in addition to everything that we were discussing in Nashville, piece of history. Different kind of history made in Leagues Cup. Late equalizer stoppage time with Sam Sturridge going to penalties. Referee ruled via the assistance of VAR. Once again, that Luis Malagon came off his line. Jack Moore had another opportunity to convert. He did. Dos Santos off the crossbar. Daniel Lovitz gets the win. Highlights are there. In the match last night with Minnesota-Toluca, remember Minnesota had a 2-0 lead before Toluca came back. Hassani Dotson got sent off. Match finished at 2-2. Win via the shootout. 97th minute penalty from Sergio Canales, enough for Monterrey to beat Tigres in Houston. LAFC with the big 4-0 win once again, as Bam said. They've scored, 11 goals in their last two matches, only given up one to Juarez. Denny Bouanga had the first two. Now, here's something that also was interesting yesterday. Haven't had the chance to discuss it. Sacramento Republic announced the signing of Davian Kimbrough, a member of the club's youth academy, to his first professional contract. Kimbrough, the youngest professional athlete in American team sports history. 13 years, 5 months, 13 days. Sacramento Republic saw enough in Davian Kimbrough to sign him to a professional deal at 13-5-13. That's young. 13-5-13. And reports out of AS are emerging. Jaime Lozano will be named full-time manager of the Mexican national team through the 26 World Cup. So Jason has posted the starting lineup over at soccerdownhere.net. Also, let's see, what was it? We mentioned the Saudi Pro League. Barcelona, by the way, it was, and I know this will shock all of you. Barcelona at a point yesterday was at a point where they had only signed 12 or 13 players. 12 or 13 players were under contract. But then, magically, and I have no earthly idea how this happened. I have no clue. Somehow, strangely, Barcelona ended up being okay to sign players all of a sudden. I'm trying to find the actual correspondence of when it went, when the decision was that they couldn't, and then all of a sudden, magically, they could. It was just strange. It was absolutely strange. So, as I scroll back through all of the notes, I wish I had this bookmarked. But yeah, there was a point. There was a point where I think it was Alaves and Barcelona were the only two that were having trouble, and one had only signed 12, and the other had only signed 13. And so I think I've gone past it completely. But yeah, there was a point. There was a point where Barcelona was just having problems. Legitimately, they were just having problems signing folks. And then all of a sudden, then they weren't. I'm shocked. And I know you are too. Okay. I think I found it. All right. So, Real Madrid, Athletic Club, and Atletico Madrid. And this was about 24 hours ago. So it's like close to noon yesterday. Only Real Madrid, Athletic Club, and Atletico Madrid have been able to register their players in La Liga so far, starting on Friday. Alaves had only been able to sign 12. Barca had only been able to sign 13. The league starts on Friday when it comes to registry. Alaves is in a world of hurt. This Friday, La Liga begins with Almeria, Rayo Vallecano. Athletic has registered 25. Barcelona had only registered 13. And among them, Kessie and Dembele, and this is translated, who are on the starting ramp. Atletico Madrid, 25. Osasuna, 21. Cadiz, 22. Alaves, talk of Barca's problems when it comes to registering players, but the worst is Alaves, since they've only been able to register 12, among them none of their new signings. Getafe, 18. Girona, 19. Granada, 16, recently promoted. New signings, Manafa, Villar, Vallejo, Wiesman, Famara, not registered. Las Palmas, 20. Mallorca, 18. Celta de Vigo, 18. Rayo, 21. Betis, 18. They have problems registering their new ones. Ayoze, Marc Roca, Bellerin, Bartra, Isco, Chadi Riyadh. None of those are available for Pellegrini. Real Madrid's with 24. Real Sociedad, 23. Sevilla, 23. Almeria, 21. Valencia, 21. Villarreal, 22. But it went from that. To everything being okay for Barcelona. Everybody registered. Everybody could sign. I was shocked that something like this would happen. Shocked, I tell you. Barcelona goes from being in trouble to not being in trouble. Everyone's under the understanding that, they are very, very young, and they will be very, very young, and they'll be okay for quite some time. But they went from not to being okay in a very short period of time. News on the TV side of things, Telemundo is going to air the semifinal and the final of Open Cup. So we'll have that to keep an eye on. That comes from our friends over at the 280 character app. Also, I'm trying to see if there's any other news. Oh, somebody actually did win, or at least allegedly. Someone actually does have a ticket. I think it was bought in Florida for the $1.58 billion Powerball. $1.58 billion Powerball. Looks like someone can see what's going on. All right. We've had a request, and it looks like we might get some reffing down here before we leave this morning. I wanted to bring him in tomorrow, and if he wants to come in tomorrow as well. Bart has decided, Neptune Beach, Florida. Thank you, Abby. So Bart is back, and I wanted to have Bart on tomorrow in full. Like I said, and I admit that I'm filibustering here because we're seeing if Lloyd Hours can drop out of a plane and be at the Honolulu airport. So Coach is on a plane trying to land, and when we can catch up with him, we will catch up with him. And if it turns out to be after 11:05, I will do a taped 1v1 with Coach, and we will end up airing that separate from the network. But what Lloyd Hours and everybody's doing there in the Marshall Islands, once again, we are catching him from 9 days of work in the Marshall Islands, flying to Honolulu, catching him in Honolulu before he flies back to London and catches up with all of his other jobs there. So officially, we're hoping to track him down one way or the other. Like I said, if we don't have him today, this morning, we'll do it as a 1v1 and we'll post it later on in the network. So, that's the thing. I was, we mentioned it when Jenn Hildreth was on. We mentioned it, and I still have yet to find a way to properly bring folks in breaking news situations. But we get to welcome this guy back. So I guess we can do it this way.
So what do you guys want to talk about?
All right. Welcome back from our friend Cody Runnels. Bart Keeler. All right, so break down the travel. And like I said, and I admit that I want to have you back on in full tomorrow to discuss things. So this is kind of like this is a tease. This is like an opening monologue for the remainder of the show this morning. And if Lloyd Hours from the Marshall Islands lands in time and we have to do a little extra, you're stuck asking questions.
I can do that.
You're not allowed to bail just because
I was a journalist way back in the day.
Yes, back in the days of daguerreotype and black and white television.
Back when I had to rush home to file a story because Wi-Fi wasn't everywhere.
Correct. I'm right there with you, brother. First off, welcome back to this side of the planet.
Yeah, to answer Abby's question, I'm not entirely sure what time zone my body's in right now. I left Sydney on Monday at 1:30 p.m. I landed in LA at Monday at 12:30 p.m. So I don't really know how that works. And now I spent a night in LA and now I'm back home. So I don't know what year it is at this point.
No. And so I'm taking the soccer aside, putting the international competition to the side. How was the trip?
I would highly suggest if you are able to pull off a trip to New Zealand specifically to go do it. I think it's because most people may find themselves for some reason or another going to Australia. Sydney and Melbourne seem to be great places. Sydney was a wonderful city. But I don't think enough people make a New Zealand trip happen, and I would highly suggest it. They're wonderful humans down there. They're really nice, very hospitable. The country is beautiful. It's everything great about, like, they have everything that the U.S. would have from terms of wildlife and things to see outdoors and everything, but because they actually make an attempt to preserve it, it's so much nicer, and it's really cool how unique. You just see a whole lot of just different types of birds, plants, and everything that you would not see here. It was truly beautiful. The drive from Wellington to Auckland is so incredible. Let me rephrase. The drive from the campsite to Auckland was wonderful. The drive from Wellington to the campsite at night was terrible because we were going basically through wind tunnels. It felt like the whole time. Because when we were driving more to the middle part of the island, so we were getting battered by wind on both sides because obviously it's an island, and at that point it's pretty skinny. But I have presents for you, John.
Yeah, so
I need to figure out how to get them to you.
So all right. So let's see. Let's see what'd you get, and how much.
So I don't want to take this out of its packaging yet.
No.
But here's your Fiji Rugby World Cup jersey.
Sweet.
So there's that. That was in the Fiji airport. They were very excited. Also in the Fiji airport when I was coming back, because we went Sydney, Fiji, LA, Atlanta.
Right.
The Canadian and Tongan, whatever the demonym for Tongan. Tongan rugby teams were in Fiji together in the airport, which was kind of cool.
Yeah. Did you take pictures?
Not really, because I didn't know who they were. I was like, oh, you clearly play rugby. I have no clue.
I didn't know who the hell they were.
Yeah. But I saw them. And then, so I was like, oh, that's cool. So they were going to Tonga. I talked to one of the Canadians, and they were going to Tonga to play a match. So I guess they're all kind of getting ready for the Rugby World Cup. The other one I have for you is I got this at a store in Wellington. So this is a Maori All Blacks jersey.
Oh, there you go.
So I felt like this was a little different than just the normal All Blacks. But he's got a nice little sublimated pattern on it.
Nothing wrong with Maori stuff with the All Blacks. That is
very cool.
And I, Bart and I have had conversations offline, and I specifically said, so how much coffee am I buying you for all of these things? And I anticipate firmly that my bank cards will be smoking with what Bart has purchased and brought home. What did you buy for yourself?
I bought a lot of stuff from the World Cup. I got a new water bottle. I got a new coffee mug. This one, unfortunately, they didn't have any World Cup coffee mugs, but I got one from Citi.
What?
They wrap cups, but I want give me a handle so that I can drink it here.
Okay.
That was unfortunate, but I bought scarves and a lot of other things. So.
See, there you go, and that's the other thing that I've got to get. Now, did you get the basic?
I did. I got the basic
scarf, or
I got the basic World Cup scarf. I also was able to find I didn't find it, but we had some people of the group. They went to Melbourne for the round of 16 match, and in Melbourne they had USA scarves. I guess they probably just got a big old shipment and put them over there, but I could not find them in Wellington, Auckland, or Sydney. So finally got them in Melbourne. So that was nice.
Yeah, and so I mean, it's I figured that the free checked bag for you was clutch.
I was so glad. I didn't realize I had it until I looked at my. We were kind of getting ready to go home a couple of days in advance, making plans like that. And I looked at it, I was like, oh, I get a checked bag from Sydney to LA. Hell yeah. And then obviously taking Delta from LA to Atlanta, when you are of a certain status, which apparently I am, I didn't realize, you get a free check bag.
Oh, so you're like, are you platinum Bart?
I'm not. I'm just silver, but I didn't realize I had that status anyway. I was like, when did this happen? I don't travel that much, and I certainly don't fly Delta every time I travel, but oh well.
Interactions with other fan bases. What was that like?
Let's see. I interacted with a few. Well, Well, I will say the Japanese fans were pretty awesome and pretty numerous. Obviously, being a Pacific Rim country, that probably helps. The Japanese fans, especially in Wellington, were great. But the fans that I continue to just I cannot speak highly of them enough is the Colombian fans. We encountered them in Sydney when they played South Korea. They were great people outside the stadium. They were so fun inside the stadium. And they are what I want to see more of at the Women's World Cup. I mean, I think U.S. fans as a whole are great examples of supporting your national team, your women's national teams. But Colombia took it to a whole new level. They were so cool. They were so fun, so passionate, so loud. And, I think we're still in this state as an international soccer community that I can say this, but it was nice to see that they were supporting the women's team as vociferously as they would the men's team, because especially in the numbers they did, because I don't think that's true for a lot of countries still.
When it came to the venues that you were in, how packed were they?
So, well, I think the one that was the most disappointing was in Wellington. The USA-Netherlands game was like 24,000. It really wasn't as packed as I thought it would be. I think that had to do because it was a 1 p.m. local kickoff. So probably not a lot of locals were there. It was very full of U.S. fans and Dutch fans, but not as many locals. Wellington was weird because they had a lot of games. That was where they played the most games of the tournament. I think they had 7 in the group stage, which is a good number. It was almost like, I mean, at least when I was there, it was every other day, basically, they had a game. So it wasn't as packed. I'm trying to think, the most packed it was probably the Sweden-Italy game, but that was also on a weekend. The Japan-Spain game was pretty packed, but there were obvious blocks of seats empty. Eden Park was the one that was the most overwhelming because I was there for a U.S. game. It was completely full. At that point, 42,000 some was the record for attendance for a women's soccer match in the country. So that was impressive. And it felt big, I think is kind of the way it just felt like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of people here.
Yeah.
But my favorite that I went to was Sydney Football Stadium, the newly redeveloped one. They finished it last year, and it felt new, but it also felt like it'd been there for a little bit of a time, so that people it felt like it was an important stadium. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
It was great. And it was packed most of the times I went there. It was great.
Media coverage. I don't know how much time you got to watch on television or listen on the radio.
A lot.
From all the driving, I'd imagine, especially on New Zealand. But what was the media coverage like compared to what we're used to seeing here when it comes to big ticket items? What was the coverage like there?
So in New Zealand, it was better in a couple of ways, but they were different. In New Zealand, it was Sky is like on linear cable there, so it was just a little bit easier to watch the games. We could go to a bar and watch a lot of the games, whereas in Sydney, because it was on Optus, and they had on a local channel, but it wasn't always like you weren't guaranteed to get that game on the local channel 7. So in New Zealand, it was just a little bit more present, which was nice. And obviously you had coverage, you had highlights and stuff like that. We would go into the restaurants and see if they had a TV, you could see highlights of the game. But in Sydney, I noticed a lot more like news crews. And that may have been because a little bit more international. The broadcast center is there. It's right there in Olympic Park, actually. So I think a lot more news people were able to be in Sydney. And I just noticed at the fan zone and at the stadium proper, there were more like camera crews or people with the selfie, the phone on a selfie stick type of stuff doing news hits than I did in New Zealand. But they were still there in New Zealand. But I think Sydney just had a bigger media presence at the events themselves, which makes sense. It's a bigger city, more international city. And because the International Broadcast Center is there, probably a lot more media people in the city.
I'm saving most of the on-the-field discussions for your scheduled visit for tomorrow, where we can also get into some reffing down here, especially from Leagues Cup last night.
One part of the foot on, above, or behind the line.
Oh, yeah.
One part of one foot. Not both feet. One part of one foot.
And took 5 minutes to review, and we had.
I mean, it's still rigged. I think that's the narrative we're supposed to go with, John. Is that Leagues Cup is rigged, right?
Sure.
That's been my Twitter. I haven't watched many of the Leagues Cup games,
No.
other than like catching up on highlights, right?
Yeah.
But that's been the narrative on Twitter. Is that
Yeah, it's rigged. But no, I want to save 99% of your on the field Australia, New Zealand opinions for tomorrow. What is your early first hour like?
Tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow. Will you be awake during the
yeah, I think so. Let's see.
As he checks his calendar, he's like,
well, I'm checking FOTMOB to see. Now that I'm back in my actual time zone, I can see what time game. The mathing was hard, John. Oh yeah, tomorrow we don't have a game until 9 p.m. So I'll be good in the morning.
All right, so then 9:30 for you tomorrow morning, where we can discuss all of the on the field things. But that's why I wanted to get the travelogue stuff out, the experience stuff, since you wanted to crash today as one of the hosts. Oh, by the way.
Well, I noticed you were all by yourself, so I didn't want to.
Well, yeah, because we're also, like I said, we're filibustering for Lloyd Hours of the Marshall Islands. By the way, there it is.
There it is.
There's
Beautiful
the
award.
Atlanta Press Club Award for podcasting. So there you go. SDH Hardware. See what you've gotten yourself into, sir?
I apparently have. And thanks for getting all of my randomly sent audio journals to you.
But I will give you credit. The only thing that you couldn't figure out was how to get a T into your titles. For
I know.
I know that with the way that things were going with the U.S., Bart was doing SFUs, soccer for good, or OG, whatever the title of the show is now these days.
Soccer for us down here.
Soccer for US POD down here. And so he was doing stuff from down there. But no, I mean, that kind of travelogue and those kind of instant reactions are kind of things that we need. Thank you, Abby. Bart, you have a question. You want to go to the fraction?
Well, I just spent 18 days away from my boyfriend, so I think I have to spend time with him, especially because his birthday was yesterday. So, I got to do that tonight, unfortunately, Abby.
Well, you could always take the better.
I could. He goes to plenty of soccer with me.
They can choose match because it's a big match tonight. 7:15 pregame, 7:30 kick against Crown Legacy up at the Fraction tonight. It's a big one.
I mean, I do enjoy rooting against Charlotte in just about all things. So,
Abby! Oh, check this out. Wait a minute. Abby's got 2 extra tickets.
We'll see. It's his birthday week, so it's all about what he wants to do.
Hey, don't you want to go to the Twos game for your birthday celebration?
On your birthday celebration. You want to go to Kennesaw, don't you? We shall see.
So there you go. So Abby's got 2 extra tickets, and she's trying to get folks to come and be a part of the experience tonight up in Kennesaw for Crown Legacy. It'll be interesting to see what Crown Legacy looks like, considering that Ajumong was a part of the League's Cup roster and scored in the match against Houston. Yeah. Does he play tonight for Crown Legacy? Don't know. Don't think so, considering that they got to play on Friday. I think Ajumong stays with Crown Legacy, with Charlotte, as they are playing their match this weekend.
Yeah, they've got to play Messi, International Messi FC on Friday, correct? Yeah.
They got to play Inter Messi at Drive.
Do you think they're going to do you think Charlotte will be the team that does the just stop Messi game plan?
I don't know. Well, I don't know.
I mean, I've heard it's just so easy to enact.
Yes,
you just stop Messi.
Yeah, and Busquets and Jordi Alba and all of that stuff. Yeah, I mean,
but hey, they only have 3 DPs. John, trust us.
So far, I mean, if they had brought in Luis Suarez, I think that's coming in December. The questions are, but remember, John Thorrington. Chris Henderson, I think, learned the lesson from his predecessors there, and he knows that he's got to take the John Thorrington approach to how to do things. There's been some Thorringtonisms, I'm sure, in making sure that Alba and Busquets are okie doke while they try to figure out what to do with Gregory and Campana.
Yeah.
since Pizarro has been jettisoned. So I think there's been some Thoringtonism to their cap massaging and to make sure that everything is happening.
So, John, I don't know, what's the temperature of all of our new players?
I mean, so far there's reason for excitement, and I mean it's you've got you bring in players on low risk, and there's high reward attached to them. It's going to be interesting to see them integrate. I mean, we saw with Muyumba, who really was only supposed to play 55 or 60 against Cruz Azul.
Yeah.
He played 90. And he played out of his mind, and it was fun to see that kind of imagination on the international stage. I think that Saba, I think the expectation is high, obviously, because he's coming in as a DP. Mm-hmm. And we found out the proper pronunciation. It is Lobjanidze, not Lobjanidze. It is a J and not a Z. It somehow gets switched.
Yeah, it sounds like I'm going to call him Saba. So.
Yes, because that's also on the back, because a lot of times that's on the back of his jersey. In his career, it has been Saba. So Saba, Silva, Saba.
Xande Silva and sounds like a fun name too, by the way.
And so you've got.
I'm excited to hear the goal call from Mike Conti on Xande Silva.
Yes.
Also, maybe Saba. I can't wait to hear him pronounce that name over and over again.
Well, but I think legitimately, since Saba is on the back of the jersey,
they'll just call him Saba.
Just call him Saba. It's
our new homegrown, right? We got him from Georgia.
Correct. Yeah. The Jonesboro suburb of Tbilisi.
Yeah.
But
I hear they have a really nice stadium over there.
Yeah, they do. You talk to the folks at MOBA; they're doing some really good work.
Yeah.
But Saba's the one. Maybe you do Saba Daba Ding Dong. I don't know. That's what you do. Like Shaba Ranks. Tom is like, just yell Saba like Shaba Ranks. Abby says the new flags will arrive today. But
good.
With Chiade, a Senegalese forward. You know about Senegalese forwards. You don't mess with them.
Yeah.
So bringing in Chiade, a Senegalese forward, once again, low risk, high ceiling. Silva, low risk, high ceiling. Saba, I think, is the one with the expectations that are going to be high coming in. And with what we've seen from Muyumba, I like the early returns. And so, like I said, I'm looking forward to it. We'll see what happens with them. The fact that you're chasing after talent that meets a specific skill set that just happened to be, going into the French market. We'll see what happens there. But no, like I said, looking forward to it when we get back to MLS action with the 10-game sprint after Leagues Cup is done. So let's see. I'm writing it down. Tomorrow, 9:30 for you. I'm going to try to bring in Lucas Panzica, the voice of Nashville, to discuss what happened in Nashville and this will kind of lead into reffing down here tomorrow because of VAR and the delay, specifically where it was a 5-minute delay. And I've been mentioning on the show this morning, we don't know if it was because of safety concerns, because you had 20 arrests last night in Nashville.
Yeah.
With pitch invaders and associated behavior. He was off the line. We know this in looking at review, but the notion of the time frame of getting the information, bringing it back out there 5 minutes later, then continuing with PKs, and then you get Jonah hitting the crossbar, and then Lovitz going in. So I guess this is your video review before we bring you back in for reffing down here and everything else on a Thursday. But yeah, the delay, I think, is what is concerning.
Yeah.
But if you're focused on security, then I get it. I know it's just a byproduct of all of the events going on around you. So this is where we're going to have to get into. And then with Philly and Red Bulls, the last 20 minutes of the match, and Rich will back us up on this. The last 20 minutes of regulation in Philly and Red Bulls last night was a car crash.
Was this was the one that had a spicy quote from our great friend Jim Curtin, yeah?
And it was red, and yes, and the way that I referred to it with Rich, I said pot kettle, and basically that was the end of the discussion from my end, although we did read the quote. But yeah, the last 20 minutes of that match, the center ref lost complete control of it, or he let it go, depending on your perspective. Just let everything basically go, and then when he'd blow a whistle, it was just completely and totally inconsistent and all over the place. So that was kind of what I wanted to have you prep for reffing down here tomorrow, was control and all of the subplot in Nashville with VAR and all these kinds of things and security, and the big wake-up call that Major League Soccer stadia are going to have when it comes to security going forward, with 7 matches to go, and Monterrey and LAFC playing at the Rose Bowl and not BMO.
Yeah. Well, first off, love that for soccer in this country, being able to max out what you were going to sell and then go to a bigger stadium. I think, John, that's one thing that on this trip, I come back with wishing that MLS clubs would bet on themselves a little bit more and build a bigger stadium. Sydney Football Stadium, you could have built that in LA. You could have built a 40,000 seat venue in LA and probably been filling it,
Mm-hmm.
Probably could do something similar, maybe not 42, but there's, a way to make the footprint that it was in could fit in the new New York City FC venue. And don't be afraid to take up a little bit more space. I know it costs money. It's not my money. I haven't won the Powerball yet.
Dylan Butler Estates is already locked in for the high 20s, I think.
Yeah. I think we stunt ourselves with a lot of the low 20s stadiums, and I would like to see us bet on ourselves a little bit more. And
Snapdragon for me is the example of that.
Yeah, Snapdragon is a great size. I think the mid 30s, where if you don't sell it out, it still won't look empty, but probably sell it out more than you think. And Nashville does. I don't like to give them too many credit because they're terrible humans up there. But I'm joking. They don't deserve that after last night. No, they don't deserve that after last night. But they do push 30,000. Well, at least they say they do, reportedly. And that was one thing that I think that we could try to do is push it, because Melbourne Rectangular is about 30-some thousand. Sydney Football Stadium, 42,000. The rest of the A-League stadiums, obviously a little more closer to MLS size. I mean, shoot, Hindmarsh down in Adelaide for the tournament was only about 13,000. So, that was a little too small. But I do wish that MLS clubs would bet on themselves a little bit more when building stadiums. But also, from a U.S. soccer perspective, help, because, now you're looking at getting the U.S. men's and women's team in soccer-specific stadiums with soccer-specific facilities at 30,000+, which is why we'll see a lot of games in Nashville in the near future. But I look at a club like St. Louis, and they're only at 22.5, and I go, could you have made it about 25, 27? Cincinnati is another one where maybe you could have gone a little larger than 26. But anyway, that's just wishful thinking.
Yeah. Viewing and things like that for today. Being in Espanol, Sudamericana, and Libertadores at 6 and at 8. If you don't have Being, you can go to fanatesfntz.co/soccer down here. Helps out the show. Helps Fanates out. Jason got me hooked. I blame him.
Yeah.
Summer Showcase in Colorado Springs, the meeting of the USL owners and people of import. The match attached to it, the Summer Showcase, Colorado Springs and Tulsa, 9 o'clock tonight on the Deuce. ESPN Deportes has a friendly, Salzburg and Inter at 1 o'clock on the Plus. It is Carabao Cup, Burton Albion, Leicester City's at 3. The friendly from Salzburg and Inter's on the Plus. 3 matches in the USL Championship, 3 matches in USL League One, including Tormenta hosting Central Valley Fuego from Tormenta Stadium. That's at 7:30. Paramount Plus has a Champions League third qualifying round, Slovan Bratislava and Maccabi Haifa at 2:30. Gotham and Orlando, the NWSL Challenge Cup, is at 7:30. So that's your viewing tonight, and that is where we are. Bart, yeah, so 2 Liga MX teams are still in it, Monterrey and Querétaro. That is correct. And probably should be more.
Which one is the team that the goalkeeper is taking the penalties for? Because I like that one.
Yeah, I think they're out now.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of who that was. It was Tapia.
Okay.
Tapia, who...
I'm all about goalkeepers taking penalty kicks now.
Yeah, I think it was...
Nair, absolute legend. I'm sad none of my coaches trusted me to take one because I had a great penalty kick, but oh well.
Oh wait, no, it's I think Querétaro.
I thought it was Querétaro. But
Yeah, you're right. It is. Yeah, Tapia plays for Querétaro, and so so Tapia, the keeper, saved the last two and then smashed the penalty in for Querétaro. So yeah, Tapia is the one that they're not afraid to have in like round 2 or round 3, and they don't care. By the way, Alyssa Nair, absolute boss for smashing it in the 6th frame the way that she did.
We'll have a big postmortem on the Soccer for Us pod because I think we have to. But one of the thoughts I had on the way back, and obviously I'm traveling with my good friend Brett, and he's a women's soccer and just overall soccer fan. But the stark contrast between the former U.S. number 1 to the current U.S. number 1 could not be any greater. And I'm not saying one is better or worse. One did some slightly illegal things, so I think Alyssa Nair got that up on her. But Hope Solo was a phenomenal goalkeeper.
No question.
I mean, top 4, 5 in women's soccer history easily. Maybe top 2. Let's be real honest. Behind the German goalkeeper. The German goalkeeper. Angerer. Scurry's up in top 3 as well.
Yeah.
But she was a little bit of a showboat, not in a bad way, in a sportsman, good sport type of, you want to see that. But Alyssa Nair is the exact opposite, but still very good. And just interesting to see the contrast between the two. And, I don't think Nair has ever really truly felt like she was our best goalkeeper, but she's come up big for us in a lot of moments. And still just going to go down and say that she saved that last penalty, but what do I know?
Hey, it's a millimeter. I think in the old days before VAR, we'd still be going.
They might still be kicking. Actually, that's probably false. We probably would have missed another penalty or 3.
Wow. All right.
I think people forget that the U.S. women's soccer team doesn't have good luck in penalty kick shootouts. We think of 99 and we think of 2011 with Brazil. We haven't won a whole lot of penalty kick shootouts outside of that. In fact, we lost in 2011, the final on a penalty kick shootout. Anyway.
There you go. So Bart's going to have all of his non-travelogue Rick Steves Fodor thoughts tomorrow morning at 9:30. So we're giving him a day. We were kind of easing him back into his analyst material. So it's going to be U.S. It's going to be the big guns that didn't make it out of group. It's going to be about your debutantes. It's about all of the underfunded folks that made big runs. Jamaica, South Africa, Nigeria, getting into all of that, looking at Morocco. It's amazing what happens when you do invest. Great to see that. Philippines, South Korea, all of these storylines and getting us into the final 8 as we continue to go here. We'll talk about stomps and all these other kinds of things. So, Bart, since you are officially back, you get to send us home because it's the end of the show. Do you remember how to do this?
I think I do. Hold on. Mucha plata, y'all.
What he said. End of the show. Be back at it again 9:05 tomorrow morning.